Lawrence.
Radio Lawrence.
Hey, you found it. This is the Radio Lawrence podcast where we discuss local art, politics, and community. Thanks for joining us as we host conversations with the people that make up the fabric of our town. Our guest today is Kansas Big First Congressional District candidate Lauren Reinhold. Lauren, welcome to the show.
Hi, Shane. I'm really glad to be here.
We're excited to have you. So let's start with non-congressional discussions. How did you find your way to Lawrence?
Oh, I found my way to Lawrence in 1993 when I came here for law school. I chose Kansas for law school.
You are an attorney.
I'm an attorney, yes.
And you've lived here continuously since 1993?
Almost. I had about 5 years in Kansas City after law school.
Okay.
But I've been in the state since then.
Are you not from the state?
I'm from Missouri, although I lived in Topeka with my parents, Topeka and then Kansas City, Kansas for the first 6 or 7 years of my life. And then they moved back to St. Louis when I was, I guess I was about 8.
Okay. And you, after becoming an attorney, you took on a job in public service. Is that correct?
I did. My first job out of law school was with the Social Security Administration, writing disability decisions. And then I left for 12 years and did other things like legal aid. I even had a private immigration law practice. And then I went back to the government in 2010.
And what were you doing in 2010?
So in 2010, I went back to my job writing disability decisions for the Social Security Administration, for administrative law judges.
When did you decide that you wanted to be or felt that you needed to be a congressperson?
Well, I've always been interested in politics, and I considered it, I would say, for the first time maybe 10 years ago. But then I gotten a new job in the government as an HR specialist, and I was in government administration. My career was finally taking off, and I really brushed the idea of politics aside. I loved my job in the government, and my plan after my youngest graduates from high school, which will be this May, was to consider moving to D.C. and working my way up in government administration and continuing to serve that way. And that all changed.
What happened to this plan?
So what happened to this plan is in January 2025, after the new presidential administration took control of the government, we all got a letter saying, called the Fork in the Road letter that DOJ sent us, offering us the chance to leave and encouraging us to do so and telling us that we weren't really needed. At that point, I dug my heels in and said, I'm staying. I love my job. I'm going to see how this goes. And I'm not willingly going to leave. I've worked really hard to get here. I've worked my way up in the government. I want to be able to retire in the government. And then things just got worse from there.
And so at what point did you leave your government job?
So I ended up leaving my government job after we were given the second offer to basically have a package, a buyout package, the deferred resignation program. But what changed my mind about staying versus leaving is they told us that we would be in a new job classification in HR that would basically be a patronage job, basically at the political whim of whoever's in office, and no longer a nonpartisan position. It was called the Schedule F classification, and they're still in process of classifying jobs Schedule F, and I believe they will do so. But that was really the nail in the coffin for me. And I thought, no, I do not want to be a patronage employee. I want to be a public servant serving the American people in a nonpartisan way.
So you took the second, we'll call it an offer. You took the second buyout offer, and at that point, had you decided yet that you were going to run for Congress, or what did you do?
Well, at that point, I knew I would start exploring running for office because in between the first offer of the buyout in January and the second offer of the buyout in April, when it became apparent that they might lay employees off in our agency when they threatened to do so, I remember thinking, well, gosh, if I'm not a federal employee, I could run for office. And so that idea was churning. And when I took the buyout, I did. I started exploring right away because I was unhappy with what they had done to destroy the really important institutions in our government, damage them, destroy some of them, but damage all of them, certainly.
And I would like to dig into all of those, the things that you consider destroyed and damaged in just a little bit. First, I want to chronologically get to your declaration to become a congressional candidate. How does that process work? What did you have to do, and what kind of preparatory work did you have to do, and then how do you actually declare yourself a candidate? I assume it's not like Michael Scott in The Office declaring bankruptcy. You don't go outside and shout, "I declare congressional candidacy." So how does this all work?
Wouldn't that be great if we could do that? Imagine what the ballots would look like if everybody's Michael Scott style declaring. No, it's pretty complicated. You have to file with the Federal Election Commission. You have to have a treasurer. You have to do certain reporting. You have to get an EIN number. But those are just the basics. That's the bare bones. To get ready to file, you have to, come up with a branding plan, put some money into it. I put some money up front into this campaign. Get a team together to do all of that, to make a plan for your messaging, for strategy, for branding.
How did you choose these people? Are they do you have professional branding and strategizers on your team, or are these trusted individuals that you already knew?
Well, during my time exploring over the summer, which let me specify too, I was technically a federal employee through September 30th, so I was prohibited from, even though I wasn't working after May 2nd, I was prohibited from declaring candidacy for partisan office or raising any funds, which as a candidate is a really sweet and unusual spot to be in. So I spent the summer doing some travel at my own expense and starting to connect up with county parties. And so through that process is where I really met a lot of the people who are now on my team. I just networked just in force, just like constant networking. That was my job all summer, getting to know people. My branding person I hired, that is someone I hired, is active in party politics in Shawnee County. And then my campaign manager is actually a young woman who wants to break into politics and found me. She's still working full time, but I'm hoping that I can bring her on part-time at least. And I have my political strategist, policy director is a federal employee from the Social Security Administration I met when federal employees started gathering regularly in response to DOJ, sort of a unifying thing. All the different unions were talking to each other. There's a weekly happy hour in Kansas City, and so I met
everybody needs a drink sometimes, right?
Right. So I met a key person on my team that way. Another key person on my team is someone who's involved in local Douglas County party politics and Democratic Party politics, and a retired person who just offered to help. It all came together. I will admit I tried to lone wolf it for too long, and that would be one of the top things I would a recommendation I would make to candidates is don't try to do that. Try to get your team together. They call it your kitchen cabinet.
And how many people are in this kitchen cabinet? I've counted 3 or 4 now, but it seems like I might be a little low.
There's probably about a dozen who are
Oh, wow.
active. I have a treasurer. I now have a compliance person I've hired. I have a few friends who are active on different levels, some less so because they have very busy lives. But yeah, about a dozen, and we're amassing more volunteers. I mean, I just got added to my own group me volunteer chats. That's how active my and taking charge of things my campaign manager is. So I haven't even counted how many people are in there, but I hope we're up to the point of having a few dozen names at least who can be volunteers.
This may be an inappropriate time in the interview to discuss that, but here we are. How would someone volunteer if they were interested in helping your campaign, either through door knocking or whatever it is that you need volunteers to do? How would someone reach you to join that team?
So the best way to do that is to go to my website at www.laurenforkansas.com, all spelled out.
Okay.
My social media handles are all Lauren for Kansas as well. And the email address is info@laurenforkansas.com. But that's on the website too. And we have a form on the website. And yeah, so I encourage people to get involved. I think a lot of us, I talk to a lot of people. I see a lot of people who are just feeling defeated, feeling frustrated with the state of current affairs and not knowing really what to do. But every little bit helps. The same with political donations. Donate to the candidates you care about. Volunteer on their campaigns. Get involved in your local party. Get involved in other organizations like Indivisible. It's really important to get involved.
I usually wait until a little bit later in the show to prompt you for shameless plugs, but it felt like that was the appropriate time to discuss how people could get involved with you.
Well, I'm a politician, so I guess,
all the plugs are shameless.
Now I'm a politician. I wasn't planning on it, but yeah.
So we've worked our way through your coming to Lawrence and your joining in with government entities up to how you declared for Congress. So let's move now into the race itself. First, let's discuss the obstacles that stand in your way. Kansas big first district, it's no surprise, is a historically overwhelmingly Republican district. I use the term lightly, Lawrence is a pretty new addition to the big first, but we have never elected a woman. And if my research is correct, I think my research is correct, we have elected one Democrat, and it was in like 1952. I wrote it down here. Yeah, it was 1952. Howard Miller was the only Democrat ever elected in Kansas Big First. So how do you overcome these significant obstacles?
Oh, yeah, they're huge obstacles to overcome. I'll admit it. I think the only way to overcome those obstacles is to get out there and be in the district as much as possible. And that's why I'm committed to running this race full time. I did not seek another job after I left the government. That's a financial detriment to myself. I'm living off of savings to do this. But I am committed to being out there in the district, throughout the district, as much as I can. Because various corners of the district don't see candidates much. But I think this cycle, they're seeing candidates a lot more, and they're happy to do so. But just getting out there isn't enough. I've got to figure out a way to change hearts and minds and unify this district on the issues that all matter to us.
Absolutely. And it seems like the divide between red and blue is is more stark than ever, and I think that your ambition of getting out and speaking to people is a noble one. How do you overcome the fact that some people probably aren't going to want to talk to you or listen to you based on the fact that you have a D behind your name and it says Lawrence on the ballot?
Mm-hmm. There's definitely going to be some of that, some people who I'm about to go to a weekend event in Dodge City. That's an indoor winter expo, it's called. The Winter Expo, I think, is what it's called. And I'm going to use that opportunity to talk to anyone and everyone who will talk to me, which is unusual because a lot of these events I go to now, I'm in front of a friendly audience, right? I'm with the county party Democrats or whatever. That's not going to be enough. I'm
it's
there
easy
for
to
those
get the
people.
Democratic votes, right?
Yeah, I mean, there is a primary too. So I have a primary contender, so I still have to get my.
You got to win that one as well.
I've got to win that one as well, but and so I'm just going to have to stay very open. And when people say no or get hostile, you just thank them politely and go on your way. I mean, I think the most important thing is to stay really human with people, stay very kind with people, because what I discover out there, I mean, like say out there, I don't mean just out in
the
state.
World.
I mean, out in the world. Yeah. Out campaigning is face to face. People are pretty nice usually. I had the chance to talk to some people who weren't in a automatically friendly audience when I went with a friend to Oktoberfest in Hayes, and even had one farmer guy openly scoff at me when I said I was from Lawrence and running for office. But by the end of the conversation, he was telling me about invasive weeds that are taking a lot of the water and how I need to learn about that, and that if I'm, I'll get more votes from farmers if I learn about agriculture, and teaching me, and I was listening openly to him. That doesn't mean I'm going to get his vote, but I'm like a little bit closer, and at least we're starting to have those conversations.
Absolutely, and I think that listening is the operative word there. We, as Kansans, are all we have a lot in common, but there is also a large dynamic difference in lifestyle between living in Lawrence, for instance, and living in a Hayes or in Abilene, or these people's lives revolve around different things than our lives do, but they are still Kansans. They are still part of our district. And so, yeah, I think that listening is the operative phrase there. You have based your campaign on what looks to be half a dozen pillars, we'll call them. You didn't call them that. I called them that. You can use that if you want to. It's all fair use. Let's work our way through those in as much detail as you see fit. We'll start with rebuilding rural healthcare. What's wrong with rural healthcare?
So, yeah, I mean, rural healthcare was already really tenuous. There's not enough access. There's not enough clinics. Hospitals are at risk of closing, and communities can't even find practitioners. I was up in Decatur County a couple of weeks ago, and they have one doctor for the entire county who's in his 70s, and recruiting someone to replace him or add to that practice is very daunting, because it's hard to attract people to small towns, professionals to small towns. So what rebuilding rural healthcare comes down to is making sure that all the federal subsidies we had in place, like the ACA, the ACA subsidies, the Medicaid, that all those cuts are restored. We need more federal support for healthcare in general, and we have to come up with a plan for affordable healthcare. I don't know if that means a single payer system or um, gradual expansion of Medicare, but it is just unacceptable that healthcare is not a right; it's a privilege right now. I can't believe how many people can't afford to see a doctor and don't, and once they do, if they have to go to a doctor, they go to the ER and they might not be able to pay the bill, and that's the situation where the hospitals then lose money.
We are the only developed nation in the world where medical bankruptcy is a phrase, and that is concerning. I'm with you on not only rebuilding rural healthcare but urban healthcare and healthcare as a whole. Your next pillar is supporting agriculture and rural economics.
Yeah, so we haven't passed Congress hasn't passed a farm bill since 2018. They've just continued the prior farm bill. A lot has changed since 2018. A lot's changed about the nature of, corporate involvement, the monopolies, and, obviously with the tariffs, that's really deeply affecting farmers. They don't have stability in their markets. They don't. And so we need something that's going to support agriculture, especially family farms. And that's what I'm focused on, are small businesses and small, and farms that are non-corporate.
So what would you, I guess, define or list as actionable items in the category of supporting agriculture and rural economics?
Building a farm bill that is meeting all the needs of agriculture, all aspects of it, but not just focusing on the needs of corporate agriculture.
The third pillar of your campaign is strengthening workers' rights. What does that mean to you?
So I'm very pro-union. This district, I'll be quite honest, doesn't have a whole lot of union membership or, bargaining unit participation. But not many workforces, I guess about 10%, give or take, are unionized. But, even for non-unionized workplaces, employees need to have rights. They need to have the rights to, I support things like family leave, sick leave, increased wages, making sure that, the overtime laws are enforced. And when workplaces want to organize, I support strengthening the National Labor Relations Act so that there's better enforcement. Because right now, it's very difficult for the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, to enforce unfair labor practices. I mean, union busting it's kind of seen by some corporations as just a cost of doing business. They don't get a lot of negative effects of it. There's no fines. I used to work for the NLRB too. I worked for them for about 5 months.
Not a very long tenure.
It's not. I got lured back to Social Security for the promotion I wanted. It was a surprising thing to leave there. But I will say it's a really important agency that could really create, or support collective bargaining in a way that's more even-handed between workers, unions, and the employers. And they just don't have the resources to do it, and they don't have the teeth in the law to do it. They do what they can. It's a really hardworking agency, but it's easy for employers to union bust around it.
Your fourth pillar is government integrity and reform. I feel like this might get lengthy. Let's discuss the integrity of the government and what needs to be informed.
Okay, so yeah, okay, to try to keep this very very basic.
Oh, you can be as in depth as you see fit. This is a long form interview where you have the floor, and if it goes for over an hour, well, we have that kind of time. So
Okay.
let's delve as deep as you see fit.
Okay, well, let's see. Well, we're seeing ever since January 27th of last year. Gosh, I can't believe it's been a whole year. It's kind of crazy. Um, and Doge came in and did all kinds of things that were contrary to how things are done in the government. Mining data and taking it to the cloud, firing people with good experience. I'm very concerned with the what they've done to really, I don't know how to put it, reduce the power of the inspector general's offices. Every agency has an inspector general's office, but
I believe is
yeah,
I think they were all fired, right?
I think that there's still some in place actually, but I think they're kind of figurehead.
So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was a big victim, I guess, a big casualty. That's the word I'm looking for. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was a big casualty of Doge as well. So germane to nothing, just piggybacking on your point there.
Yeah.
Sorry if I derailed your train of
No,
thought.
you didn't at all. I mean, CFPB is a good example. I mean, that's along with USAID. Those are agencies. Now, USAID went away entirely. CFPB, I think, is kind of hanging on by a thread, but I don't expect it to survive necessarily based on what I've heard, based on what we've seen in the news.
How is that beneficial to the federal government? I mean, I I will admit I don't know everything. I am comfortable in saying I don't know everything. But I will also say that I spend more time than your average individual listening to political talk programs. And what I understand about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is that their sole job is to protect consumers, voters, individuals from being taken advantage of from any number of. I mean, it's no secret that the entire world is largely a scam now. In some, it's like 16 scams in a trench coat. It's like you get text message scams and phishing emails, and your phone is ringing with people who are not who they say they are on the other end. And even if you're doing business with a legitimate company, they still have a tendency to act unscrupulously. And as far as I'm aware, that's the sole job of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, is to protect consumers from financial fraud. How does it benefit the federal government to no longer have that bureau?
It does not benefit the federal government. It benefits corporations. And that's exactly why they're undercutting that bureau from enforcing the laws it was intended to enforce. I think most of their laws are kind of in the banking realm, but that's still really important stuff. Really, I don't think it covers really every consumer thing, but, Congress makes laws intending that the executive branch will carry out those laws. And that's what's happened here, is that the executive branch is not doing its part. And Congress needs to put the screws to the executive branch, to the president, really, to to follow the laws that Congress has passed and spend money also as Congress has passed, because there's new appropriations every year. And that can be so basically I'm trying to think of the best way to say this in a nutshell. By government integrity and reform, what's happened is that it's like they've come in and just put a wrench in everything as it was supposed to be functioning in the executive branch and upset the separation of powers, incredibly so, by doing that.
And with that, I would like to divulge for a moment from the pillars of your candidacy. We've still got 2 remaining, but I had a prepared question regarding exactly this topic and how you deal with an executive branch and a president who largely seems to be disinterested in congressional approval for acts of war, who will revoke funds that have already been appropriated by Congress. And how does the Congress assert itself to an executive branch that has determined they aren't needed?
I really think members of Congress are going to have to become activists to some extent. I mean, they're going to have to do more than just strongly worded letters and saying, no, we shouldn't do it this way. I think there has to be a certain amount of being very deliberate and public about the changes, the negative changes that are happening. Like, I think in particular back to when, during the pandemic, when Cori Bush camped out on the Capitol steps because they were going to revoke the eviction protections during COVID. And, that's the kind of thing we're not seeing, that kind of bold action. And they probably need to, people who want to repair these things that are broken in the system, members of Congress who want to repair that, need to hold their colleagues accountable who are not. Their colleagues who are just sitting by and letting things happen and burying their heads in the sand about how it affects their constituents. I think we need to be really analytical and pointed about what our Congress people are doing in every single district. I don't care if you're in another district in Kansas, or if you're in a Missouri district or any other state. Is your congressperson doing what they're supposed to be doing? Because I posted a couple days ago that Tracy Mann has had 20 Facebook posts since, the first murder in Minneapolis of protesters. That was 3 weeks ago? Renee Good, yeah. And hasn't said a single word about it. Our congressman doesn't have an opinion about whether ICE is doing their job. And that's disturbing to me, because as a congressperson, it's your duty to have an opinion. Even if you have to change your mind at times with good research, or be willing to say, I don't know. You have to say something. You can't pretend it's not happening.
I think that you just touched on 2 incredibly difficult things for a lot of people, which are changing your mind with research and admitting that you don't know everything. You're correct. And yes, I would love to see more, even if your stance as a congressperson is to come out and say, I support this 100%, at least we know you've said something. Let's pull this thing back onto the tracks. We are now on pillar number 5 of 6, which is worker first immigration reform. It's a nice segue from what some might call government sanctioned murder to how do we deal with immigration? I don't think that anyone serious says, as much as Democrats are accused of being in support of open borders, I'm a Democrat. I'm not in support of open borders. How do we apply immigration reform in a way that is humane to individuals who are seeking a better life while maintaining the integrity of our own country?
Yeah, it's complicated. It's extremely, extremely complicated. But Congress has had decades to come up with new immigration legislation.
You're telling me immigration is not a new concept?
That they have. No. What I'm saying, I know it's not a new, yeah. But, I remember when I was practicing immigration law back that was from about 2005 to 2008. I didn't practice it exclusively for long, but I remember analyzing what Dennis Moore and Nancy Boyd, our congresspeople in office at the time in Lawrence, what their policies were about immigration reform. That's how long Congress has been trying to do this and failing to do it. I mean, we have to have a reform bill. Absolutely. Congress has to come together and do it. The question of the balance, yeah, of course we need border security. Every country needs borders and needs security at their borders. But we need to prioritize what we need in our society, worker-wise, and what families need and the realities of it. And once someone's in the country and has lived here and hasn't committed a crime that's deportable, which is a very narrow definition. It's a very complex area of the law. There's people who practice just that law, criminal defense in immigration. Why on earth would we treat them unkindly and not give them enough food and, put them in crowded conditions and mistreat them, not give them medical care in detention? It's unbelievable. I mean, I remember being a member of Amnesty International when I was a high school student and a college student. So we're talking back in the 80s and 90s. And writing letters about, writing handwritten letters to governments. Were you ever in Amnesty International? Did you?
No.
And I mean, the kind of letters we wrote then about, please let this person out. They didn't do anything wrong and they're, not being treated. They have medical needs and the prison's terrible condition or whatever. I mean, that's now the kind of thing happening in our own immigration detention. And it's just the lack of respect for human rights is unacceptable.
Yes, I agree. And I don't have the numbers in front of me. Obviously, I didn't know that it was going to come up. How could I? But I believe that the majority of Americans support a path to citizenship for the people that you just described, who are just, their only quote unquote crime is being in our country in an undocumented fashion. Perhaps I'm wildly off base. Maybe you know the number, but I think that that a path to citizenship is the popular position. Is that accurate?
I think that's true too. That's what I've seen. I don't have the number off the top of my head. And I think if people were polled, this month, next month, I think that would get even higher, because I think more and more people are seeing what's happening when they're dragging, people out of their homes, dragging, baiting their children, using their children as bait to get them. And deportable is, being deportable. Okay, well, let's reel back to what Trump said. We're going to get only the criminals, the people who've committed heinous crimes. Well, there's a certain definition of crimes that are deportable under federal law. That's always been the case, that they can remove people for that. That's
And I
not
don't
who
think
they're going
anyone
after.
I don't think anyone would argue that point. I've never met anybody that's like, no, let the violent criminals stay. That's insane. And that is something that I feel like is placed upon us as Democrats. You know, it's the argument that you hear is, oh, well, you support criminals. And also not true. The same as I don't support open borders. Of course, I don't want criminals in our country, but being an undocumented immigrant in our country is not in and of itself a crime. And it's definitely not a crime punishable by death, by, political persecution and imprisonment, indefinite imprisonment in squalor and terrible conditions. It just all has become so heavy-handed that I don't know how we even get back to a state of sanity. I mean, we're currently seeing veterans and United States citizens being scooped up by immigration officers. I'm going to be respectful and say officers. And you're seeing, shockingly, Native American people are being picked up by immigration officers, and it's all has exploded so rapidly and so far off the tracks that it's shocking.
I agree. Absolutely. And I think that shock is going to propel people into pushing for common sense immigration reform. I mean, I hope so. We have to, because, immigrants are our neighbors. And we don't want to see people hurt. Yeah, and like you pointed out, there are veterans who have been deported. Veterans of our military have been deported. It's unbelievable.
I saw a police chief from Minnesota speaking the other day, and he was like, one of our officers got picked, an active Minnesota police officer was picked up by immigration enforcement. And it's just, I don't know. And I don't know how long we can dwell on the topic. It begins to weigh on me, and I stop being a competent podcast host. So let's consider that specific topic justly covered, and we'll move to your final campaign pillar, which is strengthening Social Security. How do we strengthen Social Security? What does that look like to you?
Well, Social Security has undergone such a loss in workforce that they can't keep up with customer service demands. They are having backlogs. So one important thing is just that everyday service, so that people can know that they can go into a Social Security office or call the Social Security 1-800 line and get answers. Because right now, the wait times are terrible, and they've tried to institute some AI programs that are working poorly. I have friends who are still working at Social Security, and it is a mess from a customer service standpoint. But, that's something that's happening to some extent in most agencies that were hit hard by DOGE, right? Probably all the agencies that were hit hard by DOGE, which were most of the agencies. Customer service is a problem.
I think that with Social Security specifically, that's the plan, right? That's by design. If you can weaken this agency so much that it collapses under its own weight, and then point at it and go, see, it didn't work. Is Social Security, again, I don't know everything and I don't know the numbers. Is Social Security popular with Republican voters?
Well, it should be, absolutely. I mean, I have never run into a single person who says, I'm such an anti-socialist that I don't want to take my Social Security. I'm just not going to claim it when I turn 65. I mean, people claim it, they depend on it, they expect it, and they need to have some secure sense that it will be there. In addition to that, the cost of living, the actual cost of living for seniors in the face of inflation, which I wonder how accurate the numbers we're getting from the government are, because I think prices are going up faster than they admit. You know,
As
seniors
the value
can't
of the
live.
dollar decreases, everything costs more and you get less for your dollar. Carry on.
Yeah, so I was going to say seniors need to be able to have enough to live on, and so do disabled people. We don't talk much about disabled people who are getting Social Security, but we need to know that that social service safety net is there as it was intended during the New Deal. I mean, Social Security just turned 90 last year, and apparently, some of the museum exhibits at the headquarters at Baltimore, the presidential administration is trying to get rid of those. So we need to fight for it and have just that rock hard certainty that it's going to be there. Additionally, we need to raise the cap. Currently, there's a cap. It hovers around between 100. Well, I think it's like 180,000, something like that this year. After earning that amount, one does not have to contribute.
Sure. Elon Musk famously noted at like
Few minutes.
At like 1:45 a.m. on January 1st that he was capped on Social Security. His Social Security cap is met. Congratulations, you've done it. You have contributed to society, sir. Yeah, I wish I had the numbers. I have a head that has all the statistics I don't need, but there is a statistic regarding elders living in poverty, and I want to say that number is something like 60% less than it was before Social Security was instituted. And when I see these numbers, again, I kind of made that 60% number up a little bit. When I see that number, it just, to me, it's like, why are we fighting this? Why would anyone not support this program? It obviously is doing exactly what it's intended to do, which is to make sure that grandma doesn't eat cat food.
Right. I mean, yeah, the cap is woefully low. It needs to be higher so that we can strengthen it, so that we can increase benefits, and so that we could know that the benefits will be there for us, Shane. I mean, I'm 10 years away from claiming Social Security.
Oh, I've written that off. I have very, very little hope. I'm still, what is the age now? 67 and a half. I'm still almost 30 years away from, I turn 40 in 2 weeks.
Oh,
I don't have any hope that I'm ever going to see my Social Security money again. It's gone, and I just try not to think about it, I guess. But yes.
Or feel good about helping grandma not eat cat food, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My grandma, your grandma.
That's all you're doing.
Any grandma out there who feels that they need to eat cat food can come and knock on the door, and I'll give them a chicken dinner right now. And so that's kind of how I look at that money. Like, well, somebody got to eat it.
I'll tell you, when I'm out there talking to people, I've had many seniors come up to me and say that every month they kind of wait, like afraid that their check isn't going to come. That all of a sudden, and this was especially true in those first few months of Doge when they saw all this disruption in the government, I think people really thought that their benefits could stop.
That's terrifying if you're 85 years old and you have no means to provide for yourself. Like, what are you going to do? Go be the greeter at Walmart? I mean, there just aren't that many career options for an 85-year-old woman who's been widowed for 25 years, who goes, oh my God, the Social Security check just dried up, and my husband's pension doesn't support me. What do I do? It's madness. And I can't imagine the stress that would cause on someone who frankly doesn't need any more stress.
Yeah, and it's part of that fear and intimidation. And think about it. If, you know, this president, issued an executive order that benefits checks were going to stop for 2 months or something, or just stop. I mean, who would Congress really be in a position to stop him? Would they stop him? What?
I think we've already established that the answer is probably not.
They
And
would just say, this is not right. I mean, what?
they'll do a filibuster. Yeah, we'll stand out there and preach for 27 hours about how this is not okay, and then kind of move on. It's again the 24-hour news cycle. We've got other things to talk about every day. It's like, oh God, are you still on about the Social Security thing, dude? We're talking about whatever today's issue is. It's frustrating. So we've been through the half dozen pillars of your campaign. I would like, because I am the interviewer, to talk with you about the things that are politically important to me, and I hopefully other people share my concerns and my viewpoint and find it interesting to listen to. One of my biggest political sticking points is campaign finance. I don't know how we got to, well, I do, and I could go on a diatribe about it that you probably are very well aware of already. I understand Citizens United. I understand money as speech and businesses as people. And suddenly we're buying political candidates. How are you funding your campaign?
With individual contributions. I mean, I haven't had any PAC contributions. I might take some PAC contributions, but not from big, nasty corporations that are trying to make us poorer and sicker, period. I mean, and I haven't even identified what that would be yet. But, I mean, I'm really relying on grassroots support. And they say to run a successful congressional campaign, you have to raise $1 million. $1 million. I think if we raised 500,000, that would be really good. I think it would get us pretty far.
How much do you need to receive in donations from supporting individuals to hit that $1 million mark? I mean, Bernie Sanders was notoriously, I'm indebted for the $4.63. And so he had that number. He knew what his average campaign contribution was. What do you ask people for?
I ask them to give whatever they can give. I've had a few generous donations, but I want those. I've had friends say, "Oh, I can't give much right now." It's right after the holidays, and then I'm like, I don't care if you give $5. That's $5. That's something. Yeah. I have a couple friends giving recurrent $5 monthly donations. That's something. We get hundreds of people doing that. That's meaningful. We get people who can do $25 monthly. That's meaningful. I mean, it's whatever you can, however much you want us to not be represented by Tracy Mann in Congress. That's how much you give. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard to ask people for money. And, but, I'm off to a decent start, but I'm not anywhere near the finish line, anywhere near it. And Tracy Mann goes into this campaign with $700,000, mostly from corporate PACs.
It's a lot easier to get there when you're willing to take the AIPAC money, the oil lobby money, the every single corporation that is counter to the livelihood of your constituents. If you're willing to turn a blind eye to what the people that you represent have in their best interests and look to the best interests of Tracy Mann, then sure, it's probably pretty easy to come up with that money, I would think. But I think it's a lot more meaningful if you gather it $5 at a time from real people who have real concerns and real votes.
Maybe if people started off with $20.26, 2026, sort of like a vibe, superstitious kind of thing, like picking the right numbers on the roulette wheel. That, I need to think that through because I think, that's what I'll say today. Is that's my pitch is $20.26. And if you're the kind of person who wants to donate $2,026 too, I'm not going to stop you. But it's, and the thing is that if we get this momentum going and raise more and, even with it being mostly grassroots supporters, which is what I anticipate, I don't have a whole bunch of rich friends who are going to give me the individual contribution limit is $35,000 a cycle. So $35,000 for the primary, not $35,000, $3,500, excuse me.
I was going to say $35,000 that is a lot of money.
That would be great if I had new friends with that much money.
I think most people in Kansas don't make that much money in a year.
Yeah, $3,500 for the primary, $3,500 for the general. Now, as we get that momentum, guess what's going to happen with Mann's campaign? Those PACs are going to raise more money, and they're going to put ads out there saying who knows what about me. Who knows? And people are going to watch it and go, people who've been stalwart Republicans, they identify with it. They're concerned about the cultural issues. Oh, gosh, that lawyer in Lawrence, I don't know.
That's been something that I've been concerned about. And believe it or not, I spend an inordinate amount of time basically with this podcast, with the amount of time it actually takes up in my life, which is like 1 hour sitting here, is the tip of the iceberg. And I probably spend a disproportionate amount of time thinking about it. And one of my concerns leading up to this interview was, oh my God, what if I say something that ends up hurting Lauren's chances at becoming our congressional candidate? What if I express some view that she agrees with and it ends up in a political commercial and they're like, look at these nut jobs? And so that's sort of, it's just a giving voice to that voice in my head.
If it happens, it happens. But that's a podcast. We're talking openly about the issues, and that's what I'm doing all over this district.
I think that's what politics is. I again lose sight sometimes, but I believe that the rules are still that you should engage with everyone everywhere on any topic and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, there's a lot of shoulds that are not being met. I mean, right now it's polish and burying things and BS. And I'm not that polished. I'm not up there with the super polished speech. I mean,
I saw you do an illegal U-turn in the street in front of my house just a few minutes ago.
So, I sure did. That's because I was impatient and I didn't want to be late for Shane. There was no oncoming traffic.
We were in the portion of the interview where I asked you about my own political sticking points, and we already talked about a lot of them. Because I feel like our views align pretty well. Just in talking with you here, the things that are important to me are campaign finance and how we get money out of politics. The things that are important to me are the social safety net. They are education. Education was not here on the. Let's talk about education. How do you feel about college?
Oh my gosh. Personally, I feel really lucky that I was able to go to college. I don't know that it wouldn't be that easy now. It wouldn't be that easy. I feel like college is a matter of privilege. And I think we should have funded at least 2-year community college. It's gotten way too expensive. It's out of reach. It's student loans. I'm thinking about this in terms of what my kids are facing, you know?
You have kids that are getting ready to go to college, right? Or
Well, I have
are
an
already
18-year-old,
college age?
yeah, and I have a son who's 24 and has not pursued higher education. But if he does, and, they're from middle-class families. So how about the kids who are from families that, are living paycheck to paycheck or not even making it paycheck to paycheck? How, yeah, education's not valued. And then the K through 12 level, we're taking funds away from states to local districts, and the whiplash that the federal Department of Education gave them this year for taking funds away and then giving some of them back, that's a manipulation. And just that loss of funds, we're going to see, like, with department, I'm kind of going on a tangent back to the, because I'm always thinking the realm of federal. What can the federal government do? Because I'm not running for state office, I'm running for federal office. So, but it comes back to, again, this damage that they've done to really important agencies that carry out laws, civil rights laws that help ensure special education, after school care, even some, food-based.
Let alone just getting lunch.
And we're going to pull that. This is really an attempt to make Americans poorer and sicker. And they're going to do it, and they are doing it to school children. This funding needs to be restored. We have the funds if we tax the rich enough. And why are we depriving people, hardworking people?
Absolutely. And I would even go further, because I am, I don't know if I would define myself as an extremist, but I think some people probably would. I would go further than if we tax the rich enough to, maybe if we weren't, having the largest military budget in the world that seems content on. When Trump was running for office, that's the first time I've said his name in this interview. I want to point that out. When he was running for office, it was like, I'm against these regime change wars. I'm not going to do my impression, but I do one if you want to hear it. I'm against these regime change wars. I can't. We got to put America first, and we have to, take care of things at home. The forgotten man will never be forgotten again, and blah, blah, blah. And all I hear anymore is, well, obviously that didn't mean, that just meant like the Americas, because Venezuela is in South America. It has America in the name. And now we're talking about Cuba, Greenland, Iran. Holy crap. I can't even keep track anymore of countries that we are either actively engaged in military action or are threatening military action. And these things all come at an incredible financial cost, let alone we already went down the ICE rabbit hole. ICE is now one of the best funded militaries in the world. So we've got two of the best funded militaries in the world, the number one, and then, I don't know, maybe 12 in our country. And I can't help but feel that those are counter to the interests of American people who want their children to be healthy, happy, and have a positive outlook and prospect for their future.
Mm-hmm. Prosperity. People want prosperity, and they want safety and security. They don't want their children to be drafted into senseless wars. That's what we're looking at if we let this military, I don't know, fever dream continue. But yeah, we've been lied to. We were lied to about whether we were lied to about peace, about wars, about whether our wages would go up, our job opportunities would go up, our prices would go down. We were lied to. And I'm going to be talking to, a lot of people throughout this district, a lot of whom will have voted for Trump. And they were lied to too. So, some of them will see it, I hope. And they will be, I'll interact compassionately. And it's hard because we all need the same things. We need that security in our lives. We need opportunity. I heard it said perfectly, as every person deserves to be able to get a job where they can earn enough money to meet all their needs, enough left over to save, and enough for fun. Period.
Period.
And way too many of us don't have that.
All right. So we have gone pretty deep into a lot of heavy topics. This might be the longest interview I've done. I don't know, but I now want to change gears away from heavy topics and move into the most fun and enjoyed part of the show. You've been listening to the show, you told me, so you know what's coming.
Right.
It is time for the lightning round. Rules of the lightning round are I'm going to ask you approximately 10 questions. You can answer them in as few or as many words as you see fit. No explanation is necessary if you do not desire, and I will not ask any follow-up questions unless those follow-up questions directly benefit me personally, like where I could get a good soup. Are you ready?
Good. I'm very ready. I'm excited about this part. I need to lighten up a little bit too. I can't be heavy all the time, but I am most 23 hours of the day.
But here's your time to shine. What is one irrational fear that you have?
Oh, golly, yes. I am scared of fish. Like,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at your fears. That's not a nice thing to do, but that's a funny one.
Everybody laughs at it because it's stupid. It's kind of like how people are scared of spiders or snakes because, they can bite you. They can actually hurt you. That's a reasonable human fear. But I don't care if the fish is dead and the package and styrofoam at Costco, which my daughter actually chased me down an aisle with a few weeks ago. She thought that was funny. Or swimming in the tank. It's gotten a little better over the years, but fish. Oh, no. Yeah, there's certain things I cannot do.
What is the best soup?
Oh, gosh. I think my favorite soup is broccoli cheddar soup. But with enough broccoli. The last time I got it somewhere, it didn't have enough broccoli in it.
What would your autobiography title be?
Oh, gosh. Ooh, yeah, you threw a new one in there for me, Shane, which is really good because you knew I'd been listening, so it's good that I didn't have all the clues. Don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I guess indecisive.
Lauren Reinhold story. What is the farthest you've ever traveled from home?
Croatia. That's the furthest I've been. I haven't been out of the country a lot, but I did get to see Croatia last year.
Where's your favorite date night dinner in town?
I think I would say, definitely 715.
What's your
Is
favorite?
that where you're taking Stella tonight?
Hey, whoa.
He told me he had a date after this.
No follow-up questions in the lightning round.
Okay.
I'm asking the questions here. What is your favorite movie snack?
Popcorn, 100%. It has to be movie theater popcorn. Like, I don't pop popcorn at home to watch movies because it has to be that buttery, disgusting, but unctuous, wonderful movie theater popcorn drowning in butter and hopefully some white cheddar seasoning.
Are you superstitious?
Yes, I am a little bit. Hence 2026, right? $20.26 as the donation amount. And just today, although I think it's in the pocket of my coat, I picked up a penny. I was in Kansas City for an appointment and stopped for pizza. And there were 2 pennies on the counter, and one was head up and one was tails up. And I picked up the heads up one and I always say to myself, see a penny, pick it up. All day long, you'll have good luck.
What is one song that you turn off immediately?
Anything by Pearl Jam.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grow up?
What did I talk about the most? I think I talked about becoming a doctor, but then I realized that I wasn't that into science.
What is one conspiracy theory that you subscribe to or believe to be not so much a theory?
Oh, wow. Open to the Area 52 stuff, but not totally subscribed to it. There must be life off this planet, so maybe they did visit. I don't know, but that's very, very. I would never vote in favor of it. I would never vote based on the possibility of aliens unless I saw them with my own eyes.
All right, that concludes the lightning round questions. Lauren, I'm gonna open the floor to you for closing remarks. Please see us out.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. And if you want to learn more about my campaign and follow what's going on, head over to my website, www.laurenforkansas.com. And there you'll have my campaign email address, all my social media, and, hopefully you'll see a lot of great things happening. We do have a lot of good events coming up. We're going to have a launch party in Lawrence on April 1st, so look for that to be announced. And before that, a launch party on, I believe it will be March 14th in Salina. We decided it was important to launch in Salina first.
You heard it first here. Thanks for coming, Lauren. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Shane.